Good afternoon to you. 5:07 here on News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up, Senator Ron Johnson will join us 5:30. Looking forward to that conversation. We'll get into the details of the Biden crime family and his investigation into that subject. And we'll chat with you at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The media, once again, scrambling to explain why Joe Biden is a bad man. Joe Biden is a bad man. Joe Biden does not want to acknowledge that he has a seventh grandchild. And is that evil? It's pretty evil, isn't it? They treat this kid, this Navy Joan Roberts, this beautiful little girl, like she doesn't even exist. There have been these reports that Biden has been telling people in strategy meetings, aides are told that Biden has 6, not 7 grandchildren. Don't you dare say he's got 7 grandchildren. And it's led to some debate among lefties. At least it's spilling out into the pages of the New York Times opinion section this weekend. Maureen Dowd, the columnist at the New York Times, says in her headline, "It's 7 grandkids, Mr. President." That's the headline. All right, so it's published in the Times. This New York Times columnist is begging Joe Biden, this is so sad, begging Joe Biden to accept his own granddaughter. Please, Mr. President, we've put so much trust in you. Don't convince the world you're a scumbag. Accept your 7th granddaughter so we can defend you. That's all I'm asking. She says the story revolves around her Republican sister. Maureen Dowd has a Republican sister, she says, who is not immune to Joe Biden's gregarious Irish charm. Oh, she's so enamored. The Republican sister, that's obviously, is totally taken by Joe Biden. She met him at a media holiday party over the years and was so impressed that she got seduced to the other side for a time, voting for the Obama-Biden ticket in 2008 and writing in Biden's name for president in 2012. Good Republican. She sent out a Christmas card one year with a picture of herself cheek to cheek with Biden. Ew. And some of her Republican friends stopped speaking to her. I'm going to guess that was probably the other way around. So I was surprised recently when I discovered my sister writing a letter to President Biden, a plea that she had started in the middle of the night after mulling over the matter for quite a while. Quote, "I watched as you told the nation you had 6 grandchildren, and you loved each one of them," she wrote. "I believe that. What I cannot believe, and what I find unconscionable, is that you refuse to admit or accept the fact that there is a beautiful little 4-year-old girl living in Arkansas by the name of Navy Joan, who is your 7th grandchild." Peggy wrote about Hunter's high-priced lawyers going down to Arkansas to make sure Navy could not use the Biden name and to slash child support payments. Quote, "She has the Biden blood running through her veins, and all she is going to have as a reminder of this are some of Hunter's original paintings. Sounds like a lousy trade-off, if you ask me," Peggy wrote, referring to the agreement that assigned some of Hunter's artwork to the daughter he has never met, even though DNA testing in 2019 established his paternity. They go on to explain how this baby came into being. They don't exactly describe the birds and the bees, but a strip club comes up at some point in this, and the way that Hunter met this woman, eventually resulting in Navy Joan Roberts. Peggy is, again, Maureen Dowd's sister. She asked Joe why Hunter couldn't act like Tom Brady, who treats his son by Bridget Moynihan, the actress he was dating before he married Gisele Bündchen, the same as the 2 children that he and Gisele had. Well, one reason is because Hunter Biden is no Tom Brady, to be abundantly clear. Not to mention Arnold Schwarzenegger, she says, who says in a new Netflix documentary series that he has a great relationship with the son that he had after a tryst with his family's housekeeper. That's right, Arnold slept with the maid. That broke up his marriage. He got a son out of it, and he's friends with the kid. But not Joe. Joe's no friend of this grandchild. "Mr. President, many years ago, you lost your daughter in a horrendous car accident. I know you still carry that pain with you every day because I have watched your face when you speak about her. Please do not throw away your granddaughter," Maureen Dowd quotes her sister as saying. She goes on to say the president's not allowed, can't defend Hunter on all of his messes and draw the line at accepting one little girl. You can't punish her for something she had no choice about. Maureen says. The Bidens should embrace the life Hunter brought into the world. That's right, it's a life. Even if he didn't consider her mother, quote, the dating type. The president's cold shoulder and heart is counter to every message he has sent for decades, says Maureen Dowd. And it's out of sync with the America he wants to continue to lead. All right, so there's the New York Times coming out and saying, this is a big problem. Just accept the granddaughter, says Maureen Dowd. Please, this is embarrassing. I'm defending you every day, and you can't even accept your own grandchild? The left is confused about all of this. Chuck Todd over on Meet the Press, he's the outgoing host of that program on NBC, is upset that Republicans are even raising this issue.
Before I close, Maureen Dowd, Garrett had a pretty tough piece on Joe Biden's. It was about sort of the Biden family isn't acknowledging all of Hunter Biden's children. It's 7 grandkids, Mr. President, not 6.
Do you hear the pain in his voice as he tries to even lay out the details here? Have you noticed that it's not even a clean recitation of the facts? Well, it's all of Hunter Biden's kids, not recognizing it. It's like, I'm so sorry I have to ask. It goes through the throat clearing.
It was about sort of the Biden family isn't acknowledging all of Hunter Biden's children. It's 7 grandkids, Mr. President, not 6. I think we've all understand the personal challenge and concern and all of these things that the president has here.
Stop it. Stop it. You are so embarrassing. Stop it. Oh, we all know that he's a loving human being. He loves his family. He's such a good and decent man, says Chuck Todd. We all know about that.
But his political foes see this and they're trying to exploit.
This is not about Republicans pouncing. This is not a Republicans pounce moment. This is people of all political stripes, to include Maureen Dowd at the New York Times, is pointing out how indecent this is. How awful it is that he treats a 4-year-old girl like utter crap, like she doesn't have his blood flowing through her veins.
That the president has here. But his political foes see this and they're trying to exploit. I mean, there's no doubt every day DeSantis or Trump tries to use Hunter to beat up Biden.
He's not a journalist. No real journalist would structure that sentence in the way it was delivered. No real journalist would. Do you know what the Hunter Biden story is about? Joe Biden's corruption. That's what the Hunter Biden story is about. It always has been. This girl, this young girl, is Joe Biden's granddaughter. And it's the weirdest, the cruelest thing ever that he's not even acknowledging that she exists. And then when the White House is asked about it, they refuse to answer questions about something that is true in reality. This mother, the girl's mother, has had to resort to go standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, taking pictures as they glance at it and posting them on Instagram. That's it. That's it. She wanted her kid to, be called a Biden. She wanted the last name affixed to her. She wanted a little money out of the family to take care of the kid. And they did everything they could to stop her. They gave the kid paintings, which are worth nothing. If Hunter Biden's not selling them directly, they're not worth anything. Because the reason you buy a Hunter Biden painting is because you're buying access to the Bidens. It's been that way his entire career, to the extent that you can call it a career. So here's Chuck Todd bemoaning that Republicans have noticed this and saying that, oh, DeSantis and Trump, they bring up Hunter because they love attacking Hunter. No, stupid. It's not about Hunter. It never was. Hunter is the bag man for Joe Biden's corruption. And that's the centerpiece of this story.
Use Hunter to beat up Biden. How's that world handling it?
Look, I don't think anybody...
How's that world handling it? This is an example of the how are you holding up question. It's where you don't ask a real question. You just ask, how you doing these days? How you holding up to somebody in power? Jon Stewart was famous for asking questions like this when he hosted The Daily Show and they'd have a lefty on. How you holding up?
Biden. How's that world handling it?
Look, I don't think anybody envies the position that the president and his family are in on this issue, because his family and Hunter specifically have become his primary political liability in a lot of ways. I mean, look at the cocaine story from the last week and how many Republicans have tried to seize on that issue.
They're seizing. They're seizing and pouncing. Cocaine found in the White House. Hunter Biden, the most likely suspect, and Republicans are seizing and pouncing.
Yes, it's really kind of ugly the way it's been done.
It's kind of it's certainly kind of a tacky play here, but I mean, look, this is as complex as it gets to have to,
It's very complex. You see, when the left is in trouble, it's a very complex situation.
I think all of us here are parents, right? The idea of trying to balance your family's needs versus your political imperatives is just ugly and unpleasant in politics as we're going to get, and we're going to get way down in it.
Yeah. It's a very complicated situation. You wouldn't understand. It's just, there's a lot going on here. But just remember, in the end, Joe Biden is a good person. That's the thing we have to remember. And this follows with the media. There's a lot of these stories coming out that, and these claims coming out from these various pundits and journalists, that the real story here is how much Joe Biden loves his family. That's the real story. And all the other stuff is noise. But at the center is Joe Biden, loving father and grandfather. Well, except for Navy Joan. Here are the women of The View today. They're very upset that Maureen Dowd would air the left's laundry out in public.
The reason that's happening is because the right wing, who again is weaponizing everything related to Hunter, keeps asking, so how many children?
There go the right wing again, weaponizing corruption.
Do you have, Mr.
No, it's
grandchildren do you
speeches
have?
he's
How many?
written. It's been speeches he delivered.
Maybe Maureen Dowd should find something else to write about.
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. Censorship is the order of the day. So stop writing about this glaring problem for Joe, will you please? This is embarrassing. And this decreases the chances that he gets reelected. So stop it, New York Times.
It's been speeches he delivered.
Maybe Maureen Dowd should find something else to write about.
Yeah, write about something else.
All the SEALs in the audience do they actually bring in like new SEALs, or is it the same crew all the time that they pull right out of the training pool? Just everyone sits up in the stands, they throw them fish, and they all start clapping.
I'm sorry. These things are, for me, when you start talking about people.
Hey, Corey, should we try and go to The View? Like, take a day off and join the studio audience at some point and then boo on live television? Does anyone ever do that? How do they pre-screen the audience for The View? I wonder. Because don't you think by now that somebody would have shown up and just been like, boo, boo, Whoopi's wrong, boo. But no, they get a lot of, I guess you have to be enthusiastic in order to, subject yourself to what would be waterboarding for any normal person.
People's families and what they're doing. I find it unnecessary. This is not anybody's business. Nobody needed to know about this. No. This is private. And I know people feel like you need to know everything. I'm sorry, you don't. You need to know not almost anything about these.
The same people are advocating for raiding Donald Trump's house, for having Joe Biden arrest him, want to destroy every member of Trump's family, who would be absolutely thrilled if Barron got beat up on a playground. The View people, are you serious right now? They're like, this is personal stuff. We shouldn't even be talking about it. It's not anybody's business. Man. You want to hear a good suck-up interview with Joe Biden? You heard this yet? Fareed Zakaria. Speaking of lick spittles, this guy was practically drooling on Joe Biden. Normally it's Joe Biden who does the drooling. But this weekend, CNN's Fareed Zakaria got real close, took a deep whiff, and drooled a little on Joe Biden's shoulder.
You've often said when people ask you about your age, just watch me. And I think a lot of people do watch you and are impressed, and they think you've been a great president. You've brought the...
I'll let you take a break for a quick barf timeout if you'd like. I think a lot of people, they see you and they're so impressed. They say, why can't I be like him? He's in such good shape. He's just amazing. He should be in charge of everything. I wish he was in charge of my family.
President, you've brought the economy back. You've restored relations with the world.
You've brought back decency to the White House.
But many of these people do say, and these are ardent supporters of yours.
All right, this is heading in a direction. So all that throat clearing was the setup for this cutting question.
The next thing he should do is step aside and let another generation of Democrats take the baton.
Gavin Newsom.
Why are they wrong?
Well, let me, not right or wrong. Look, to use the phrase again, I think we're at an inflection point. I think the world is changing, and I think
the world is changing.
There is one thing that comes with age, if you've been honest about it in your whole life, and that is some wisdom.
There's something else that comes with age in your case.
I think we're on the cusp of being able to make significant positive changes in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, just because I haven't done anything good yet, I'm just telling you, I'm on the cusp, baby. Once I get done driving this country into the ground, the only way we have to go is up. Just wait for that moment. It's going to be awesome. That's Joe Biden. That wasn't an interview. What do we call that? A slobber session with CNN's Fareed Zakaria this weekend. It's all right. So we're trying to get our tickets right now to go to the View. Corey and I are gonna go and stink up the place. You know, it's gonna be great. But I know how it's gonna go down. At some point during the show, probably immediately, they're gonna say something stupid, and then Corey and I are gonna start booing, and then Whoopi Goldberg is gonna say this.
No, not here. I'm sorry, sir. Do not boo. This is the View.
This is the View. You are not to boo. Not here. Not here. By the way, the booing she's actually referencing in the clip I just played was when Tim Scott came on The View, and he said something reasonable. The audience started booing him. Oh, off with his head. Like, get him. And Whoopi's like, no, stop, please. You're going to let people know how awful we are. Don't do that, please. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hey, coming up here, I'm going to talk to Ron Johnson, the United States Senator from the great state of Wisconsin. And I want to get into the details of this missing Biden corruption witness. You know, Dr. Gal Luft, the one who's on the run right now from the Biden administration. He's releasing videos from undisclosed locations around the planet. He said he's got the goods on the Biden crime family, and he's paying the price for it. We'll discuss that with Ron Johnson and so much more. That's ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show. Good afternoon. It is 5:35 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. I've been telling you about the saga of a man called Dr. Gal Luft. He is definitely a Washington insider connecting to top officials in both parties from administrations dating back to the Reagan administration, the Clinton administration, and he claims he's got the goods on Hunter Biden. He says that way back in March of 2019, he arranged a meeting with federal government officials to tell them about the Biden family's income streams. Here's what Gal Luft said last week in a video from an undisclosed location.
My ordeal goes back to a fatal decision I made in March of 2019 to share with the U.S. government my knowledge about the Biden family's relations with CFC. As I said, it was in March of 2019 in a two-day session at the U.S. Embassy in Brussels. I insisted that the meeting take place in March because at the time there were rumors that Joe Biden was planning to run for president. I saw it as my civic duty to alert the government beforehand and give it enough time to probe the issue.
He says that the Justice Department, the FBI, took his statement and then never got back to him. That's a story we've heard before, haven't we, from Tony Bobolinsky as well. One other piece of breaking news for you on this story. I was not expecting this as we were coming into this segment, but just 16 minutes ago, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York announced charges against Gal Luft. They call him a co-director of the think tank for acting as an unregistered foreign agent, trafficking in arms, violating U.S. sanctions against Iran, and making false statements to federal agents. Obviously, we've got some breaking news, but I want to talk about this story in general with our next guest. Senator Ron Johnson is from the state of Wisconsin. Senator, good to have you back with us today, sir.
Well, Vince, good to be back.
A lot developing with this character, but the story he's telling is very interesting, sir.
It really is, and I think the first thing you can say is because of the corruption we've seen inside the FBI and the Department of Justice, normally, 5-6 years ago, I mean, you just assumed this Gal Luft was a bad guy because you trust the Department of Justice. Now you just don't know. I mean, this is such a bizarre story. I mean, the fact that he was interviewed by the Department of Justice and the FBI in March of 2019 for 2 days in Brussels. And one of the prosecutors from the Southern District of New York ended up being the same prosecutor that prosecuted Patrick Ho, who paid Hunter Biden $1 million when he got arrested. He was eventually convicted as a money launderer. That prosecutor convinced the judge not to allow Patrick Ho to ever mention the Bidens in the court case. And one of the FBI individuals was the same FBI agent that signed the subpoena for Hunter Biden's laptop. I mean, these are pretty strange coincidences, aren't they? That two of those individuals are also tied to other aspects of the Hunter Biden story.
Yes.
So it's, again, it's getting so hard to know what to believe. And unfortunately, I just don't trust the Department of Justice anymore. I just don't trust them.
Yeah, this guy, Gal Luft, I keep telling people, but he's a serious figure. He's been around Washington for 2 decades. He's been on TV endlessly talking about national security issues. He was a former the institute he works with, the think tank he works with, the Institute for the Analysis of Global Security, was founded by Robert McFarlane, the former national security advisor to Ronald Reagan, and James Woolsey, the former CIA director under Bill Clinton. So this, to me, Senator Johnson, seems like a fairly serious person.
Yes, and very well connected with people of integrity. So, again, who knows what to believe? It is bizarre that the Department of Justice would arrest him in Cyprus as opposed to, he's been living in Israel for 15 years. We have extradition treaties with Israel. I mean, if you've got serious charges against him, why wouldn't you lodge those with Israeli officials and go through normal process? Is it because you don't have much faith in your own charges? Again, it's just such a bizarre story. And again, there's just nothing that seems on the up and up when it comes to the investigation of and prosecution of Hunter Biden.
Now, Gal Luft, the reason he says he's got this information, as I understand it, is because he was advising this Chinese energy company, CEFC, that he was in the room. He was a part of many of the conversations that they were having as a company. So he was much more intimately familiar with the way Hunter Biden was being paid than most people would be, right?
Correct. And again, he was an expert in oil. He had a think tank. It would make sense for a Chinese oil type of company to employ somebody who's expert at that. And so he understood what CEFC was doing with the Bidens. It was interesting, the same information that Senator Grassley and I uncovered. We had bank records that showed, the agreement where they would pay Hunter Biden, I think, $1 million retainer and then $100,000 per month, and James Biden $65,000 per month. That apparently is what he told the 6 individuals that interviewed him in Brussels back in March of 2019. Now, again, it's possible that he just found out what Senator Grassley and I reported, and he is going off of that information. Yeah. But if he'd already, again, what we need is the notes from that FBI and the Southern District New York prosecutor, those meetings. They should turn those notes over to Congress.
When he met in Brussels with them, you'd like the notes, the minutes
Correct.
Of those meetings.
Right. Yeah. Whatever FBI form they fill out on those meetings, we would like those.
There's a big stack of information that all seems to corroborate the same thing, which is that the Biden family is engaged in what appears to be a money laundering operation. So I know that you've been digging into the suspicious activity reports. You see all of the odd payments flowing into the Biden family. You see the involvement of his business partner, Rob Walker, who seems to be handling the money and sending it to the Bidens. You see all of the money flowing to Hunter Biden in the form of, quote, loans, which are designed to evade income tax requirements. Tony Bobulinski says the big guy is definitely Joe Biden. He was receiving 10%. I'm struggling to find any detail here that demonstrates the innocence of the Biden family.
Oh, no, everything's incriminating. You've got Eric Schwerin, emailing Hunter Biden that, hey, you didn't report $400,000 worth of income, which apparently has never been reported, and taxes have never been paid on it, even though the IRS investigators knew it, but they let the statute of limitations expire. You've got Devin Archer, his primary business partner, now a convicted felon from a tribal bond fraud scheme in 2013, 2014, that one of the co-conspirators there said, it'd be nice to put a little honey in the Hunter's pocket. So, no, I mean, there's so much smoke of incriminating evidence, and a lot of smoke in terms of incriminating evidence that the FBI and Department of Justice have never done a thorough or honest investigation of Hunter Biden. I think they've been covering up for him for literally years.
Right. And today we get an odd back and forth between the U.S. Attorney for Delaware, David Weiss, who sent a letter to Senators Lindsey Graham and Durbin, acknowledging that he had discussions with department officials about whether they had the authority to bring charges outside of Delaware. He said he was assured that he would be granted this authority if it proved necessary. But Gary Shapley, that's the IRS whistleblower, he's put out a statement today saying that David Weiss's story continues to change. As a practical matter, it makes no difference whether Weiss requested special counsel or special attorney authority. Under no circumstances should the process have included the political appointees of the subject's father, because Congress and the public has been assured it would not, but it did. Help me understand, if you know, Senator Johnson, what's going on here? It seems like somebody's not telling the truth to Congress and the Justice Department.
Yeah, well, he also wrote letters to Jim Jordan, Chairman Jordan, on June 7th and June 30th that were certainly contradictory and contradicted what, well, first confirmed what Merrick Garland said, but was completely contradictory to what Gary Shapley had said. He told them that he asked for this authority and was turned down. The fact of the matter is that they allowed the statute of limitations to run on the most serious tax charges. We have the testimony that David Weiss's assistant blocked investigators from checking into Joe Biden's connection to Hunter Biden's business activities, prevented the search warrant of a Joe Biden vacation or some kind of his residence, and then gave a tip-off to a storage unit that they were going to search. So there's all kinds of obstruction within Attorney Weiss's office from an assistant U.S. attorney as well. So, again, there's so much smoke of corruption within the investigatory process here.
I know you typically don't get into the business of what the House should do, because considering you're in the Senate, but the FBI director is showing up in front of that House Judiciary Committee this week. What kind of information are you looking for out of Christopher Wray?
Well, I would still like to know, who directed the unsolicited briefing of Senator Grassley and I in August of 2020 that was designed to interfere in our investigation. Where they told us, you're a target of Russian disinformation. This is after months of Democrats accusing us of soliciting and disseminating Russian disinformation. There's so many things that I would ask Christopher Wray. His primary job was to restore the integrity of the FBI. He's done the exact opposite.
Yes. And if I understand the claim that you've been making for some time correctly, and of course, correct me if I'm wrong, you believe that the FBI set you up with that meeting because they wanted people to hear the story that, Senator Johnson was told it was Russian disinformation a while ago, and yet he kept pursuing it, and he knew better.
Yeah, I think they actually wanted to scare us off our investigation in general. Just say, hey, you can't believe anything you're hearing because it's all Russian disinformation. Just, stop your investigating. By the way, it to a certain extent worked, because the day after we issued our report that laid out all these financial transactions of this vast web of foreign financial entanglements, John Paul McIsaac offered us his computer. The day afterwards. Now, we were suspicious of it. It sounded like a pretty strange story.
Yeah.
So we did our due diligence. We went to the FBI and asked what they knew about that computer. Now, what they should have told us is, we know about it. We've authenticated it. It's his IP address. There's evidence of criminal activity on there. They should have told that to us. But no, they gave us a runaround for weeks, to the point where McIsaac got impatient and offered it to Rudy Giuliani's attorney, and then that got turned over to the New York Post. The rest is history.
So what you're talking about is John Paul McIsaac engaged you. That was in 2020. The FBI knew according to the whistleblower's testimony, the FBI had authenticated that laptop in October of 2019 and took possession of it in December of 2019.
Yeah, well, I think they authenticated it after they took possession in December. But regardless, they knew about it in December 2019. We're asking them end of September of 2020, hey, you know anything about a Hunter Biden computer? They gave us a runaround for 2 weeks, rather than been honest with us.
Have you ever seen an investigation with this much evidence of wrongdoing in your time in the United States Senate? In terms of just the available evidence, this seems like you have a tremendous amount sitting in front of you.
Oh, it's mounting. You'll never have the entire picture, because people that commit crimes and do wrong, they try not to leave evidence laying around. And of course, you have a real problem. The FBI and Department of Justice have developed procedures to insulate them from scrutiny. Their blanket excuse is always, Senator, we'd love to cooperate with you, but we've got an active investigation. We can't compromise that. So they always have some kind of excuse not to turn over this type of information that might implicate them. And, of course, they know what wrong they've done. They know where the ball is hidden, and they're very good at hiding the ball.
Finally, I don't know how much you know or have been tracking this Kevin Morris character in Hunter Biden's life. Hunter Biden's been very reliant on someone called Kevin Morris, a rich guy, who's been paying off all of his debts in the form of loans he's giving. So that payment to the IRS to cover his tax debt was paid by Kevin Morris in the form of a, quote, loan that was given to Hunter Biden. Simultaneously, we know now that Kevin Morris owns the equity stake in the Chinese private equity firm that Hunter Biden had previously owned. He divested to Kevin Morris. What do we know about this guy, if anything?
Well, not much about him personally, but what you described is accurate. And the fact of the matter is you can't absolve yourself of tax fraud by paying off the taxes you evaded late. And, again, it's not exactly paying off the taxes when somebody else is paying them off for you, is it? So, no, again, the Bidens are grifters. It's a corrupt family. Even the media has known that, have written stories about Biden Inc., but now they're covering up for him. And that's what the Bidens, by and large, rely on to stay out of trouble.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful for you digging in on this subject. I think it's good for the country. Senator Ron Johnson from the state of Wisconsin, thank you so much for your time today, sir. The left are a bunch of weirdos. They really are. Do you remember how the left used to have, like, the granola people? Like, they were upset. Like, don't eat that. You should eat that. There's too many chemicals and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Some of that was actually kind of like shades of right. Like, you should be careful about what you're putting into your body. There's definitely some truth to that. But they always were such lunatics about all of it. Now they've gone the complete opposite direction. Now they're like in the embrace fatness. Fatness will deliver you. It's the greatest thing ever. Body positivity. Unless you want to change your gender, then body negativity. None of the rules make any sense. But now we've got this piece from MSNBC today. Headline, pandemic fitness trends have gone extreme. Literally, white supremacists' latest scheme to valorize violence and hypermasculinity has gone digital. They say that to be interested in your body's health now, to be engaged in at-home fitness trends, or to watch your diet is right-wing and extremist. And you have to be careful. They say it appears the far right has taken advantage of pandemic at-home fitness trends to expand its decade-plus radicalization of physical mixed martial arts and combat sports spaces. Earlier this month, researchers reported that a network of online fascist fitness chat groups on the encrypted platform Telegram are recruiting and radicalizing young men with neo-Nazi and white supremacist extremist ideologies. Initially lured with health tips and strategies for positive physical changes, new recruits are later invited to closed chat groups where far-right content is shared. Physical fitness has always been central to the far right, MSNBC says. That's hilarious. That's the best, isn't it? Physical fitness is a centerpiece of the far right. I'm not surprised that people who understand how the human body works, who are interested in their own physical fitness, maybe if they're involved in combat sports, they're not little snowflakes about it. I'm not surprised that they might be conservative. Did you see the reception that Donald Trump got this weekend at that UFC event? It's like the biggest thing ever. Trump entered the arena. The crowd went nuts. He entered to Kid Rock walk-up music. Everyone was going crazy. I got to say, regardless of where you are in this Republican primary field, and most people are with Trump, let's be honest, based on all the polling, that guy is the only one who can pull off an electric UFC entrance. Donald Trump. Hilarious. Yep. Health is right-wing. What a world. It's 5:58. The great one, Mark Levin, up next.